Okay, so I'm here and going to try to give this a try one more time and open up our printed version, move him over here to the side and get ready to get started. Yesterday I couldn't get alright, so Thursday they were doing construction in my house all day and I could not do a video. It was so loud, it was ungodly, and I had a terrible headache by the end of the day. And then Friday, I go to start doing the lab, and nothing would work. Two classes that I have, and the labs wouldn't work for either class. So I was like, well, guess I shouldn't be doing videos today either. Um, but here we go, and we're going to set up static and dynamic NAT. All right, and here's our configuration. I'm going to come down to this one because this one shows our inside NAT, inside where the PC is, at this side of the edge. The outside of that is the outside NAT, or going out to the network internet. Okay, so we want to set up inside on G00 and outside on G01. So configure terminal and G00, IP NAT inside, and then interface. Yeah, give it a second. Actually, yeah, give it a few. And now it's ready. G01, and we want IP NAT outside. Okay, so now that we've done that, we want to set up the address translation that we want used. So I'm going to come back to configure mode and IP NAT inside source static 192.168.16.10 space, and then what we want it to be seen 010, and that should be in our table. So now what we're going to do, and I'm going to go up to the diagram and show you, is we're about to shut down this port right here, and then we're going to come back to this PC and ping this address to see if we can still get back to this guy, even though this part of the connection is, so I won't be able to get there this way. I'd have to be able to get there this way. Okay. So we're going to go to NY-Edge2 and configure terminal. And I'm going to interface G00 and shut down. Okay, so now I have to come turn on the PC. Okay, so once it boots up, we'll come to the command prompt, and we're going to ping the IP address of G01 on NY-Edge2. One 172.14.0.2. No colon at the end of it. And the first one times out due to address resolution protocol or your ARP. But then the rest of the packets are able to traverse through the network to that port. So now we're going to look at step 5 and go back to NY Edge 1 and show our IP NAT translation. Oops, we have to exit out of configuration mode and then we can show IP NAT translations. And you really have to make the whole, well, not that page, this page. On the whole screen, and then you can see exactly how this table looks. And that matches what we have. Nope, not there. But in our window. I lost it for a second, couldn't find it. There it goes. Okay. Pull him back over there, and now we're on to step 6. Okay, so if we want more proof, we're going to enable the remote login on NY Edge 2, set the password to Cisco. So we'll go to NY Edge 2. And line VTY015. Set our password to Cisco and force login. Okay, so now we'll go back down to the PC and through PuTTY we will telnet to 172.14.0.2. When we type in our password Cisco, it does not echo. And now that we're here, we can show users. And you can see the location address there. That's the translated address that we're using on the server. Okay, so that was a static assignment. We're going to come back and remove it, and then we're going to make a dynamic assignment. Okay, so we're going back to NY Edge 1, go into configuration mode, and no IP NAT inside source static 192.168.16.10 space 172.14.0.10 and static entry in use. Do you want to delete child entries? And we'll say no. And the reason we didn't do it there is so that we can now come, we could have done yes and it would have cleared it, but instead we're going to come down here and clear IP NAT. And an asterisk at the end of that. Okay, so I need to come back to privilege exec mode. Damn it. To clear IP NAT translations with an asterisk at the end. Okay, so if I hit up arrow and go back to my show, I'll see that it's still there. So we're going into configuration mode and set no IP NAT inside source static. And put in the IP address 192.168.16.10, 172.14.0.10. And here I like to go ahead and go back and do my show again. No, I don't want to go to configuration mode. And I want to do my show IP NAT translations. And now you see it lists nothing in the table. We're going to come down and do our ping again on the PC. One 172.14.0.2, and because we cleared all that out and that port is shut down, it does not have a path to get there. Okay, so now we're going to configure dynamic NAT. We'll come back to Edge 1 and configure terminal, and we're going to set up an IP NAT pool, and this just gives it a pool of addresses to work with. Oops, IP NAT pool with the name of my dynamic pool, and the range is 172.14.0.20, 172.14.0.100 with a net mask of 255.255, a net mask of 255.255.255.0. Okay, so now that we've done the pool of addresses, we need to set up the access list. Let's see if I've got that address right. 100 per minute, 192.168.16.0. Wildcard mass 0000255. Okay. Now we have to tie the list and the pool together. So we set up IP NAT inside source. Remember last time it was static. Here it's list, list number, and the pool name. Okay, so now we're going to go back and ping and telnet again and make sure that our dynamic assignment is set up. So I'll come down to the PC, and since I'm here, I'll try the ping first. There we go. And I'll do the telnet. Through PuTTY. One 172.14.0.2. Cisco. And you can just do a show users. And there we got an address that was in our pool of address ranges. Okay, and now we're going to go look back at NY-Edge1 and show our NAT translation. And I was not very quick. I had to pause there, so I did not get the ICMP. You do see the TCP and you see the translation. Okay, so now we're going to remove the dynamic address translation that we configured. And we are on NY-Edge1. No IPNet inside source list 100 pool my dynamic pool. No, that's right. Oh. Source. Oh, yeah, I do get those backwards. Oops. This time I'm going to say yes and just let it do it the easy way because that's what that's for. And now we'll move on to configuring PAT for the ISP connection. In our previous exercise, we configured static and dynamic network address translation. These are useful to note how to configure both PAT, which is port address translation, is probably more commonly configured because the requirement for most organization home users to connect to the internet, which almost always uses PAT, or at least should, to conserve address space required. Okay. In this example, we'll configure PAT such that you can connect to a web server outside of the lab. Without the correct configuration, you will not be able to connect, which confirms that your PAT configuration is working. Ensure you follow the last step in the previous exercise where we shut down the IP NAT. Okay, so configuring PAT is simple. We need an access list to match the traffic and the PAT translation command. You also need the inside and outside commands. Remember that you already have the inside and outside interface commands applied on G00 and G01, so we don't need to reconfigure those. To configure the access list, we're in configuration mode, access-list 101, and we'll permit IP 192.168.16.0 to 0.0.0.255 and anybody. Notice we chose to use any as the destination. If you were connecting to the internet, this is almost definitely what you want, but you may require this to be more restrictive, so make sure you understand your requirements when you're creating NAT&PAT policies. Next, we'll configure the network address translation command so that the PATs on the G01 interface, the remote web server we are testing against, will only communicate to the subnet defined on this interface. All right, so on NY Edge 1 again, we're IPNAT inside source. Let me make sure I spelled it right. List 101 and G01 overload. Okay, so now I'm going to come down to the PC and try to use the web browser. I know there's one on here somewhere. Okay. And I want to go to www.practice-labs.com and we connected. Okay, so I'm going to come back to NY Edge 1 and exit to show my IPNAT translations. Right, as a final test, let's look at what happens when you enable debugging. So first we want to clear IPNAT translation. And then we're going to debug IPNAT detailed Okay, we're coming back to the PC. Well, my PC is supposed to come back up. There it goes. Refresh the page at the browser or close it. And okay, turn off the debug. Just type. Even though the stuff's rattling along, it'll get it if you just keep typing. Use space all. Alright, and then we'll come down and we actually kind of want to scroll back up to where we turned it on. I think I let it run too long. There we go. And we can see here the IPNet translations. And it does keep going for quite a while. And they want us to do one last show. To see the translations in the table. It allocated a specific port for TCP. Here in my example, it was 1446 and listening on 1447. Okay, so we've configured static NAT, dynamic NAT, and we just looked at pattern using port translations. Hope you enjoyed this week's lab. Let me know if you have any questions.